Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Wilds Warcry Retro. That is where I, Stephen Wiles, your host, and my friend Ulysses.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're going to take a look back at some older pay-per-views. We're going to talk about them, analyze them, go run through them, see what we find funny, the normal stuff, right? But this time, we had a request. After our wonderful last outing with Halloween Havoc 2000, a fan recommended December to Dismember, which is the 2006 WWE pay-per-view where WWE attempted to do ECW. And more on that in a little bit. But let's set the stage first. So, December to Dismember was a pay-per-view that had been held in the original ECW back in 1995, and now we have this new version in 2006. This one was held in Augusta, Georgia, which is not too far from where I live, so that was kind of cool. I really like the set. I know it kind of becomes a little bit more of the traditional Elimination Chamber set, but I've always found that to be a good setup for the stage. What did you think?
It looked good. Like the set look, I like that. It was in a bigger arena, but it still looked kind of small and like how we're used to seeing an ECW event.
Right.
And like if that is probably as close as WWE would ever get to mimicking ECW's success,
yeah.
And it was just cool to watch.
An interesting note is that is probably one of the smallest crowds that they had in around that time, around that 2006 mark for WWE. The sets, though, I miss interesting pay-per-view sets. We were kind of talking about this with WCW last time that, sometimes you have really cool, interesting, they did something really neat with that set, and then you have very lackluster sets. And WWE, of course, now has really gotten to the point where all their sets look the same anyway, and it's just modified versions of the Raw set, usually, except at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, this one was really cool to me. The commentators for this particular show were Joey Styles and Taz, whom I actually really like as commentators. What did you think?
I'm not really familiar with Joey Styles' commentating style. As I've gotten older and revisited a couple of the ECW things, he did grow on me a bit. But Taz, I absolutely love Taz. Because I was around the early 2000s. In the 2000s, I was a really big fan of SmackDown. And Taz was always on SmackDown.
Right.
And when he got replaced for, I think it was like Todd Grisham and Matt Striker, I thought that commentating team dropped a lot.
Right.
But I love listening to Taz. Taz is actually one of the main reasons why I started watching TNA right now, just because his commentating style is just so off the wall out there that it's so enjoyable. And Joey Styles and Taz as a team is perfect. It's, oh my God, it's so great to hear.
Right. Okay. So I think the best thing to me about the commentating team is sometimes they're very blunt with their, banter. But they also have a lot of very subtle things, like things that if you're not really paying attention, it can kind of get lost or go over your head. And to me, that was good. I actually wanted to hear what they had to say. So, I think they do kind of wane towards the end of the pay-per-view a little bit, but we'll get into that. So the theme song for this particular pay-per-view was Let the Bodies Hit the Floor by Drowning Pool, which I do think is a really good song, but it was incredibly overused by this point. Like, even at this point in 2006, I think that song was getting to be like, okay, well, this is everywhere now.
Yeah, wasn't it the intro song to Raw or SmackDown at one of those points?
I think you're correct. I'm pretty sure you're right, yeah. That might have been later, though. That might have been after this, but I don't know. I'll have to look that up. All right, so into the first match. The first match was M&M, which is comprised of Melina, Nitro, and Mercury, versus the Hardys. Now, what was kind of cool about this is both of these teams had split off and were doing their own things as singles, wrestlers, and due to a storyline between Johnny Nitro and Jeff Hardy, which if you've never seen the conclusion of that storyline, it ends in a really awesome cage match for the IC title. That was a great match. However, Currently, this is we're going to reunite both of our tag teams and just beat up on each other match. And I really liked it. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, it was a really, really good match. Like, I had forgotten how fun and charismatic the Hardys could be when they're in tag team.
Yeah.
And this is even way past their prime as a tag team match. This is way past the TLC WrestleMania matches, the ladder match in SummerSlam and all that. But even then, when they hadn't tagged in a long time and against a really good tag team in M&M, like, I remember watching them in the early aughts, and they were just really fun to watch. And like, Jeff Hardy looked like he had an extra spring in his step on this match, because he just wanted to perform like the most to his capabilities, and the Hardys were just so charismatic in this match. It was really, really, really fun watching this.
Yeah. As like you said, in the early 2000s, Eminem really were like the workhorses for SmackDown. They were the guys you could always count on to put on a decent show, and I like that tag team. I didn't watch a lot of their stuff like after they'd kind of premiered and all, but I went back on the network and watched it. By the way, if you're wondering how you can, watch this along with us, it is on the network. If you want to see if what we say about, this particular pay-per-view is true or not, or if you want to argue some point about why you thought Balls Mahoney was actually a good wrestler or something, I don't know. But we'll get to that. So, Ulysses, most of these people may not know you as the hater of everything beautiful, but I do, and I want to ask you.
Go ahead.
I have this weird thing with Melina because she's very hot and she has a great body, but there's something about her face that always throws me off, and I want to know what you think about Melina.
I think she's perfect. Maybe half of the time I'm like, my mindset's probably persuaded by her entrance.
Yes, her entrance is. Yeah, I can't blame you there.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
but yeah,
and
like,
are you gonna wear one of those coats that like Mercury and Nitro had?
Will it get me Melina?
It might. I don't know. You know what? I'm not a fashion person, but I think it might get you something. I just don't know what.
Look, if that coat gets me Melina, I'll wear it. I'll sleep in it. I'll shower in it. I'll work in it. I'll do whatever the hell I need to do with that.
They just look so. One, the coats look too big for both of them. And two,
look,
they look tacky.
Do you own a cone like that?
I do not.
I see. You don't, and I don't, and Melina's not here with us. They did, and she was there with him. So I think the coat is the way to go here.
Funny enough, Melina is actually still dating John Morrison. So,
and
whom I miss?
He owns a coat.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm sure he owns that coat. I miss John Morrison a lot, and I think as kind of a throwback, real quick, to our friends Steven Larson. We had to do a very quick. If John Morrison started working for the WWE tomorrow, what would you have him do? Because I have a plan.
Let's hear your plan first. Because
I think he would manage Tyler Breeze, and they would form one of the most awesome pretty boy tag teams ever.
Oh, you see, I can't argue with that. That's actually really, really good. Because I actually prefer Tyler Breeze's gimmick more than I did John Morrison's.
I can see that. John Morrison's gimmick was really a work in progress. Like they've even admitted they never knew what to do with him. It's like we have this guy who's this amazing athlete, but we don't know what to actually do with him.
Yeah.
But anyway, they would eventually end up feuding with the Wyatts because they would be the biggest uggos in the WWE.
So wait, would the Wyatts be the face in that?
That's a really good question. Like if you ever wanted to do a Wyatt face turn, that might be the best way.
Oh, that's fantastic.
As you mentioned earlier, though, they had some really nice high spots in this match. There were a couple times where I was just like, well, if I didn't know Jeff Hardy was still alive, I might have thought he just killed himself. And Melina took a really hard bump off the apron. Like, I give her total credit. She face flopped that bump perfectly.
Yeah, she really did. Are you talking about the drop kick?
Yeah, the drop kick.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. If you haven't seen and you didn't know, the Hardys win the match, but it was a great match. Like, no one really lost in that match because I don't know. It was just such a good vibe to it, and I would say that this was the best match of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, you're getting no argument from here on this one. It was just, I'm telling you, just to see how energetic and charismatic the Hardys came off, and then Eminem, the young team at the time, and for them to pretty much go like, all right, you guys are the legends, we're the young guys, but we'll still walk step with you guys, was great to watch. Like, there was something as small that people don't realize. Like, there was a time when I think it was Nitro who kicked out of a pin from Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy just flops and everything. It just felt cool to watch him put that much energy into.
Yeah, there was at one point too where Hardy has a couple of really awesome reactions to moves that Nitro does, and I think Mercury does one of them too. And like you said, it was almost like this older team realizing, okay, maybe we underestimated this younger group, and I thought that was really cool. And they gave them a lot of time for a kickoff match. Now it worked because it was the best match of the pay-per-view, but for a kickoff match, they gave them a lot of time for that match.
Yeah, they gave them like a good 20 minutes for that match.
Yeah, I think they just knew. They're like, this is going to be energetic. It's going to be what we kind of need. And since the final match is going to take almost an hour,
they probably just saw the card and went like, no, we don't want any of the other matches to be any longer.
Right. All right. So best match of the pay-per-view. If you're not going to watch anything else, go watch that match. But on to the next one: Matt Striker versus Balls Mahoney. So I used to be a big Matt Striker fan. I'm going to go ahead and admit that. I thought he had a lot of potential, and I liked him as a commentator, though it took him a while to kind of get into his groove as a commentator, and I know not everybody agrees with me.
Yeah, I don't agree.
But, so he comes out, and the whole idea is that he's this teacher heel gimmick, and I actually think that's a good gimmick. Shane Douglas did it for a while. Because both of the people in question are legit former teachers in real life. So they did it really well, and it was fun. But he comes out and he's wearing these wrestling trunks that are oddly patterned and has his face on the ass of the trunks. And Taz probably says, Joey Styles probably says the best line of the night, which was, "You gotta wonder about a man who wants to sit on his own face, Taz." And I'm not gonna lie, I was sitting here, I was watching it, and I just burst out laughing. I cracked up.
Yeah, it was really good. Good one, Joey.
Yeah. But Stryker's promo in the beginning was kind of funny. I have a personal hatred of Matt Striker. I know I just said I really liked him, and that's true. But I contacted him to do an interview for one of the sites I work for, and he told me yes. And then when he realized it wasn't a paying gig, I never heard back from him. And that's a complete shoot right there. So whatever. But what did you think about this match?
I thought that Matt Striker had the worst intro I've ever seen. Period.
Oh, so his actual entrance theme and music you hated?
That teacher gimmick was it's bad. Just don't. The only teacher gimmick I ever liked was Michelle McCool, and just because I liked Michelle McCool.
That was a good one too, actually.
Yeah. But don't ever come out with a sweater vest ever again. I hope those trunks were buried deep within this earth somewhere, and to never ever be shown again, because that was awful.
He kept those. He wears those around the house.
That's like his pajamas now.
Yeah. All right. So good question here. Of all the current WWE superstars that need help, that their gimmicks aren't working or whatever, who would you give a teacher gimmick to?
If it means I'll see more of them, Big E Langston. Because at this point, his gimmick,
that would work. Yeah.
At this point, and he's charismatic as all hell, so he could probably pull it off. But at this point, Big E Langston's gimmick is, I unstrap my shirt. That's his.
I do like Big E Langston, so I agree with you. I think that would work. I was actually going to say Xavier Woods, because in about 2 months, he'll actually have a doctorate. So he could totally be a teacher. And I could see him being kind of the good heel teacher with that. So
he is smart.
Yeah, he's a smart dude, and makes way too many Power Rangers references. If you don't know, he builds himself from Angel Grove. So
that is fantastic.
Anyway, Balls Mahoney is not a good wrestler. I'm going to throw that out there. The reason people like Balls Mahoney is because he's a brawler. Once he gets going, he gets a good a good a good striking, I guess, offense going. He can take a lot of damage. So, most of the matches that I've liked Balls Mahoney in are matches that he ended up in the crowd just beating the shit out of somebody.
Yeah. I'll say this for this match: the crowd was really, really dead. Like that crowd was dead. Like the only time you got any emotion from the crowd was when the crowd was shouting "balls, balls, balls." Other than that, there was nothing.
They love that. So we're going to go ahead and move on because there's really nothing else to talk about in that match except Balls Mahoney won, which sure, good for him. Okay.
The only reason to watch this match is just to stare at Matt Striker's weird left shoulder.
Does he have a weird left shoulder?
Watch it back, and anyone who watches this pay-per-view because of us, first of all, sorry. Second of all, look at that shoulder. It's weird. It's just really, really weird.
If you listeners notice anything weird about the left shoulder, let us know in the comments. If not, call Ulysses out for being weird, for noticing something that wasn't there.
It was either look at the shoulder or look at the trunks. I think I made the right choice.
Okay. Well, I see that. Okay. So anyway, next up was Elijah Burke and Sylvester Terkay versus FBI, which are the full-blooded Italians.
Guido.
Yeah. So I have a love-hate relationship with the full-blooded Italians. I have seen some matches they've been great in, especially Nunzio, Little Guido, whatever you want to call them, and the other guy, I totally just blanked on his name, but they're both good. They're both members of the original, because Full Blood Italians have had a lot of members between different incarnations. I like Elijah Burke. I loved him in TNA as D'Angelo De Niro.
Wasn't he the Pope? I thought he was the Pope.
Yeah, there's the Pope, D'Angelo De Niro.
Oh, okay.
That was his full name.
Yeah, I love his ladder when he became a face at the end of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good run. I was so mad that they didn't do anything with it.
I really kind of hate that he didn't, he didn't really work out in WWE, and then TNA, I thought, okay, no, he's found his spot, and then, but he looked okay in this match. Wasn't one of his best, and I don't know. Sylvester Terkay is a really talented wrestler. I know his backstory. He's a mixed martial arts champion. He actually wrestled against Kurt Angle in an Olympic wrestling match.
Nice.
Yeah, if you read Kurt Angle's book, he actually has a section in there on Terkay. And this guy still wrestles, I believe, and he wrestles in Japan mostly, but he's just, I don't know, he did not come across well in this match or almost any match I've ever actually seen him in, so I've never found him to be really good. I think the biggest talking point of this match, because the match was so boring, was Trinity.
Oh, yes.
So, for those who don't know, Trinity is a former stunt woman, and she's been in a lot of movies as doing stunts, a lot of pretty good movies, actually, as a stunt woman, and then she was trained to wrestle, and she's had a good off-and-on-again career. She did some wrestling in different places, like OVW and other places, and eventually retired. But Trinity's big gimmick when they brought her into the WWE was, let's see how little we can get her to wear. Her famous thing really in WWE was coming in with like caution tape wrapped around her boobs, and like if you saw the dress that she was wearing on this pay-per-view, it was less how much can we show off, It
was like put together by like chewing gum.
Pretty much, yeah. You didn't really see this in this match, but because she's a stunt woman, she's another wrestler who at several times they had to take pretty nasty bumps. But she's talented as a stunt woman, and so she would take these bumps extremely well and make them look rough, which I like. I like seeing any wrestler that can make a bump just make me kind of cringe.
Yeah, those wrestlers I got a good respect for.
Right, but unfortunately, this again was not a very impressive match. It didn't bore me as much as a match later to come, but we'll get to that. So then Daivari comes out with the Great Khali. And I like Daivari. Sean Daivari is a good wrestler. Again, go watch his TNA stuff. He really was not given enough to do in WWE for you to kind of judge his performance there. But he was good in TNA. Do you have any experience with Daivari?
Wasn't he the one who used to like kidnap people mid-matches and like put like black cloths over the head and like
I think
really horrific things.
I think that was when he was working with Hassan.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's the other one. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. Well, no. I think he was involved in that, but I think it was the other guy that was mostly doing it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Muhammad
Hassan. That was such a wasted potential, but with everything that was going on, I don't really blame him.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know though. We say that, and look, they're still keeping this whole Putin thing going. Currently. So who knows?
But this is the thing. Lana is 1,000 times more effective in what she's doing than those guys were.
Well, sure. I can't disagree with that.
Yes.
All right.
You're gonna tell me when Lana's on screen, you're not staring?
I didn't say anything like that.
Okay.
All right. So I actually like both Tommy Dreamer and Daivari, and that's what the match ended up being. Early in the match, Khali looked like he was going to interfere, and so the ref ejected him, which is great because the less of Khali I have to see is the better. I don't know how you feel about him, but honestly, I've just always been a very outspoken person against Khali, and I can't wait until they decide that he's no longer, because they don't keep him around as a wrestler; they keep him around as a big giant spectacle. He's a media person.
When he first came up, I'll be honest, I ate the whole man. I can't wait till the face like completely crushes this big giant. Like I totally ate that up. So
sure,
but once he started doing that dumb Kali kiss cam and the whole dancing,
God.
Yeah, that's
I felt so bad for Natalya Neidhart. I really did, because they were like, well, we need a diva who's experienced enough who can keep kind of these segments going if they lull or whatever, and she's a very experienced diva, and God, I felt bad for her. Okay, anyway, so Khali was ejected, and Tommy Dreamer is, again, not the best wrestler out there, but he's at least a better wrestler than Balls Mahoney. And I like him as a fan favorite because Tommy really gets into it. Tommy gives it his all. If nothing else, you have to say that he has a passion for this business. And he had a couple of good spots here with Daivari. There were a couple of things they did that I enjoyed. I love he did the Samoa Joe step aside when Daivari was coming off the top rope, and he just kind of like moves a little bit to the left and lets Daivari hit.
Yes.
I thought that was good. And I didn't like the ending to the match. I thought the ending of the match really made it kind of worse. Yeah,
that was kind of weird. Like, I know they're trying to give Daivari like the heel cred and everything, sure, but that match truly did deserve a better finish because, again, like the Dreamer's not the best, Daivari's pretty good, but for the most part, this match was still at least it was more entertaining than most of the matches on there today.
Right.
And and I'll say this: I know a couple minutes ago we were talking about how dead the crowd was, but this crowd ate Tommy Dreamer up. And and granted, that's ECW in general. Like, wrestling fans in general at this point just really do appreciate Dreamer, but like that crowd was really into this match, and like whenever Daivari had the upper hand, the crowd hated it, and it was like that's exactly what you want. But for them to just kind of give a rushed finish, because that's what it seemed to me. It seemed like this finish was a really, really rushed finish.
Sure. And it didn't make sense with the beatdown after. Usually you get the beatdown when the face wins, but this time you got the beatdown with the heel win. It just felt very awkward.
Yeah, it was.
I will say that you are correct because Tommy Dreamer has also shown up recently on TNA, and you can tell that there is still a huge portion of the wrestling community that just adores that man for all the time he put into ECW. And he gives... I've seen a bunch of interviews with him, and he talks about how he gives 100% wherever he goes. And if he feels he can't give 100%, he moves on because he realizes that's not where he's supposed to be. So he's a good wrestler.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you've seen the new Paul Heyman DVD or if anything. He talks about, like, his time in ECW where he goes, like, I wrestled 3 months without ever cashing a paycheck, and I did that just because I love wrestling. And it's just, like, stuff like that makes you really, really appreciate Tommy Dreamer. Right. That, and he has an awesome intro music.
I do like his intro. I like his music. It's good. And, yeah. All right, so... on to what I would classify as the most boring match of the night. I'm not sure if you agree with me, but the match in question is Mike Knox, who is actually currently in TNA as Nux. Yeah. And then he is with Kelly Kelly, who at the time, storyline was his girlfriend. And we'll actually talk about who she was actually dating in a second. And then Kevin Thorne and Ariel. Now, Kevin Thorne and Ariel were doing this vampire gimmick at the time. And I'm going to say that Kevin Thorne is a good wrestler. But he, again, never really had a chance to show it off because I think in WWE he only had this gimmick. And Ariel, people may remember, is Shelly Martinez, whom was probably most known for her time with LAX in TNA as Salinas. But she's also she still does women's wrestling and is great. She's a good women's wrestler. She does a lot of modeling and stuff too. But anyways, go ahead.
No, I was saying, like, you were wrong. Kevin Thorne did have a previous gimmick. He debuted on SmackDown as Mordecai, if you remember that. He was
that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, he came out in all white, and he had, like, a Razor's Edge-like specials. He was boring.
That was him. I totally forgot about that. Oh, man. Okay. That makes so much sense, though. Excuse me. My bad. Thank you for catching that one.
I saved you some YouTube comments.
You did. Thanks. No, they'll still comment. You know that. No. All right. So this match is really just all set up to complete, or really to further a storyline where Kelly Kelly is supposed to be Mike Knox's boyfriend, but she's been a big fan of CM Punk's. And so, but right before the match, she wishes CM Punk well in the Elimination Chamber. And so about halfway through the match, because it's the typical intergender match where the women can only fight the women and the men can only fight the men. And so right as she's coming back to tag her partner, Mike Knox, he dips. That's really all I had to say about it. Do you have anything to add?
Mike Knox is stupid for walking away from Kelly Kelly, if it means anything.
I don't disagree. I'm not gonna lie. I was staring at Ariel more. Kelly's not my usual type. Not that anyone would be stupid to say no to her, but you know.
Well, Ariel was kind of the easy one to look at because what the hell she was wearing.
Right. Yeah.
She was wearing like dental floss.
Something I will give her, and I've discussed this with other people before. She was really good at changing her personality. When she went to TNA, she completely redid herself, as far as the way she looked and what she wore and everything. And now, that's really not that hard when you're coming away from a vampire gimmick, but I've seen her do it twice now, so I give her credit that she was good at kind of reinventing her character slightly.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so that's enough time spent talking about that match. On to the main event, and this is kind of a big one. So, pretty much the last hour was comprised of the Elimination Chamber. And what I want to talk about first is I want to talk about Sabu, because the original lineup was going to see Sabu as one of the competitors in this Elimination Chamber, right?
Yeah, he was one of the 6 competitors.
However, this is at a time where backstage in WWE, Sabu was pretty much seen as useless. And the reason he was seen as useless was because when he was trying to do like a normal match that didn't involve chairs, tables, or taking crazy dives, which they were trying to get him to not do, they did not enjoy his matches. They thought his matches were very boring and just weren't anything special. And so Sabu wasn't happy there. Paul Heyman had really fought to keep him in the chamber match, but WWE said no. Pretty much Vince McMahon said no, and the reason was because they knew that they were going to pretty much bury him coming up. Now things escalated a lot past that after this pay-per-view, but we'll get to that. So what they did is they had Paul Heyman, whose current champ was the Big Show, and the Big Show was a heel. And they took out Sabu storyline-wise to get Bob Holly into the match, who was another heel, who would also work with Test, who was their third heel. So those 3 guys were all kind of working together. I also like that Heyman comes out and cuts a promo before the Chamber, and he has his security with him, who are the Bashams. I don't know if you remember them.
Doug and Danny.
Yeah. And they were his security, and I don't know. It was a good setup for the match. So you've got something that happened earlier in the pay-per-view that I love when they change the order of the guys that you think are going to be in the Elimination Chamber, even if it's unfortunate that there was a bunch of backstage politics which actually caused this. It's kind of neat. So, like, it seems like almost every other Elimination Chamber, somebody gets knocked out, or somebody challenges someone else for their spot in the chamber, which happened in the lead up to this. One of the things I thought was cool, so I'd forgotten that I actually saw, Bobby Lashley is one of the men who's in the chamber, and he wasn't even working for ECW at the time. He was a SmackDown guy, I think, right?
No, I think this was the year where he was drafted, the first time he ever got drafted away from SmackDown.
Maybe. I know he wasn't supposed to be in the chamber, and he actually knocks out Bob Holly and signs the contract, which was really cool. So that was a lot of fun. But the other two men in this that we haven't mentioned are RVD and CM Punk. And it was really cool to see CM Punk when I first started watching CM Punk, because this is the first match I think I ever saw him in.
For me, I remember watching ECW highlights of him, and when I first got the game, I think it was like SmackDown 08, I believe. I remember seeing CM Punk, and I was like, "Hey, I like this guy. I want to see more into him." And I became a fan after that. And seeing his early beginning in WWE it was pretty cool to watch. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Who was your favorite going into this match? I'm assuming you knew who actually won, but who was your favorite going into it?
I remember at the time being a huge fan of Bobby Lashley. Like, I remember when he first showed up, I was like, man, this is cool. I remember I loved the Dominator finisher. I remember I would do that in high school, and I mean, at the time I was in middle school, I was doing it in middle school to my friends just because of us messing around being dumbasses. So I'll just do the Dominator. I was just a huge fan, and I remember going in there thinking like, all right, this is his chance, and I win.
Yeah. See, my favorite was CM Punk, and that's who I wanted to see win. And I saw some good spots with him, but he got taken out first.
See, you're a curse, Steven. Stop liking good wrestlers.
I know. But so this Elimination Chamber was a little bit different because it had weapons, and I think they used the weapons pretty well. Like, they did a good job at incorporating them into the match, but not making it feel like they overshadowed anything.
Except for the table, they other than Bobby did use it to clear the pod, but I was kind of hoping the match would have ended with him sparing him through the table, a la Goldberg from the last time we did this.
That could have been good. I agree with that. There was a good bit of blood, especially RVD. He got burst open pretty early on, and stayed with it for a while.
Yeah, he got a pretty nasty gash above his right eye.
Right. I did love RVD when he was climbing up over on the top of Big Show's pod, when he stopped to give him the bird and then kept climbing.
Yeah, that crowd ate that up.
Yeah, that was entertaining. Oh man, there were a lot of really good spots in this match, and I would say that this was the other good match of the night. This, it was a very entertaining chamber. However, we need to talk a little bit about what was originally supposed to happen, or at least ideally. This is when Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon started not seeing eye to eye on a much grander scale. This is when, from my research, right after this pay-per-view, Heyman and McMahon and several of the other wrestlers and all got on a flight, and there was an argument on this flight between Heyman and McMahon that pretty much ended up, that argument was what got Heyman fired. And they didn't fire him automatically, but the next night on Raw, or maybe ECW, I can't remember, Vince McMahon says that he released Paul Heyman from his duties because of this, because of low pay-per-view buy rates or something. Which, just so you know, this is the lowest buy rate for a WWE pay-per-view. I'm not sure if you knew that, but this one had the lowest buy rate out of any WWE pay-per-view.
I wouldn't doubt it. That card was very underwhelming. Unless you're just a huge fan of Elimination Chamber, then there really was no, like, at least for me, if they did not have that Elimination Chamber, I would have never saw this pay-per-view.
Well, there's some other factors to consider here also. This is when all the brands were separate, and they were building up to Survivor Series, which is one of the big four, and so this pay-per-view really got overshadowed, and apparently it was only 2 weeks before Survivor Series. So I think they probably didn't do a good job building up to this one, from what it seems like. Also, it was in a much smaller arena, and I think maybe that, might have had something to do with people thinking, okay, this is going to be small, it's not going to be as good, this is just kind of a laugh, And I can understand not wanting to spend $50, $60 if you think it's not going to be a good pay-per-view,
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Yeah. Also, just as a note, there was supposed to be a 2007 December to Dismember, but because of it doing so poorly and because of the decision to start doing tri-branded pay-per-views where all of the roster would show up on every pay-per-view, they elected to get rid of that one.
Yeah, it's probably for the better.
Yeah.
Seeing the way ECW's run that time, it's probably for the better.
Yeah, that's the guy who actually recommended that we do December to Dismember. One of the things that he pointed out was that, kind of an obvious statement, but WWE didn't get ECW. They didn't get how to do ECW. And I can definitely tell you, because I've gone, I watched some ECW pay-per-views and stuff back when I could get a hold of them. I didn't really get to see a lot of the show, but I've gone back and really watched a lot of it on the network. And WWE not only didn't get ECW, but they pretty much just made it their own brand. And a lot of the ideas that ECW had, they just weren't letting them do. A great example here is that Paul Heyman he talked to a newspaper, I can't remember which one, how he wanted to originally book this. The original idea was for CM Punk to start with the Big Show and to have CM Punk make Big Show tap out in the first 5 minutes of the match. And that way you would not only surprise all the fans, because nobody would have thought Big Show would have been out in the first person,
Yeah.
You build CM Punk, which would have given him one of the bigger rubs at the time. And then you guarantee that you have a new champion. And at that point, no matter who becomes champion afterwards, it's a surprise to everyone, And Paul Heyman didn't have anything against Bobby Lashley, but he thought that he was too predictable as the winner. He wanted to put the belt on someone else. So I'm guessing that's what the argument between him and Vince was about. And that's what ended up, leading to his initial firing. Which is funny because you've seen the Paul Heyman DVD, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic DVD.
Yeah. Isn't this the DVD, or isn't this the firing where he says, you would have never expected to see me back in the company after that?
Yeah, he's like, the things I said, the way I said it, and the way Vince reacted, you would have thought I would never step foot in a WWE ring, office, earth. And like he just goes like and I had like when I left, I just remembered doing a big deep breath and going, okay, I'm good. He's like he felt happier once he got fired than he did his last like year and a half working at WWE.
Sure, and it's easy to get burnt out, and in the position he was in, I don't blame him. Yeah. But this was not. I'm gonna step on a limb and say this was not as bad as Halloween Havoc 2000. But the two matches you need to really go watch are the Hardys vs. Eminem and the Chamber match, because I enjoyed the Chamber match. I thought it was good. Did you enjoy the last match?
As far as Elimination Chamber goes, it's not the best. I still think the best is the first one.
Sure.
But it was at least more enjoyable considering how dull the hour was to the lead up to it.
Right, yeah.
So, at least in comparison, which I don't like saying it like that because it's like it's like you're literally comparing something that's like staring at sand to like riding a roller coaster. It's just there's nothing like remotely close to the two. But that chamber match was at least enjoyable because they had good workers in there. Like RVD could put on a good match, CM Punk could put on a good match.
Sure.
Big Show is charismatic as all hell.
Yeah,
and
Big Show's good.
And just like how you said, I will agree with that. Like, I do agree that Lashley was kind of predictable to win. And I honestly don't think he was ready for a strap because I don't think he wasn't good enough on the mic to carry a program. He's good in the ring. He could put on a good match, but to hold a program, especially against someone as charismatic as the Big Show, you got to get a lot better on the mic.
No, I agree with that. And Lashley, it's funny because he's champion in TNA right now, and I don't know, man. To me, if he didn't have MVP and Kenny King with him, I probably wouldn't be buying, his I wouldn't be buying this whole thing. Yeah, I would just be like, oh well, they didn't have anybody else put the belt on because MVP got injured, which I still think is the truth, but
Yeah.
The last thing I kind of want to talk about is I was a huge fan of Test when he was a wrestler, and I really liked him. I thought he had a lot of potential, and the reason I brought up the thing about Kelly is because I think this was around the point where they had actually started dating, because up until his death they were dating, and I think he died in about 2009 or whatever. So I don't know. There was a lot of really good stuff that he did. This was not one of his better matches. Don't judge Test off of this, but he had some cool stuff. He looked like somebody who had a lot of potential, and I think if he had lived longer, we would have seen a lot more of him.
Yeah, I'll say this, like, I don't remember him ever being that jacked, because that guy was huge in this match. Yeah. I remember him as part of TNA, the tag team, not the company, with Albert and everything. And I just remember him, like, he never really came off. Probably his two biggest, like, I guess you could say, pushes were the time when he was fighting Triple H or Shane for Stephanie.
That was great.
And then during the whole invasion angle, he had a pretty big push around that time, which didn't lead to anything, sadly.
Right. Yeah, it didn't. But like I said, it wasted opportunity. There's a lot of that, and I don't know. This whole thing just reminded me. I was looking. One of the reasons I like going back and watching these pay-per-views is just seeing who's still working, who's not. If anybody's gotten better or worse. And a lot of the ones on this, I can say, the people that are still working, are still about working at the same pace that they were. They're still pretty good. But the people who aren't, it's amazing that Rob Van Dam, to me, still looks about as good as he did in that match in the chamber,
Are you talking like in ring or physically? Because right now, physically, he looks like an old, used up rag.
I meant his in-ring performance, but
okay,
if you're gonna hate on the man like that,
I'm sorry, Rob, if you're listening to this, which I know you do. I apologize.
I'd like to apologize to our listeners for Ulysses just suddenly trash talking Rob Van Dam.
Well, at least his heel turn.
Anyway, on that note of a heel turn, this is a good stopping point. Go watch this if you want to see two, in my opinion, really good matches. Ulysses may argue with that.
No, I agree with the fact that they're better than the rest of the stuff.
All right, good. If you have any suggestions on pay-per-views that we should look at, please feel free to let us know. Also, you can find Ulysses and myself on Twitter. Ulysses, where can they find you at?
At WeCho, that's WII_CHO_. Send me a message and let's talk wrestling.
You can find me at Stephen Wilds, and if you want to talk to either one of us about this or any other wrestling subject or whatever, we're both usually pretty bored, so that's just the way that works. Other than that, I want to thank everybody for listening to this, and if you have any suggestions or anything for the show, you know where to leave them. And until next time, we've had a lot of fun looking over this, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to it.